Today I will be presenting my research on abuse in the Catholic Church. Institutional sexual abuse is known across the world. In the United States alone, as according to a study done by John Jay College of Criminal Justice, 4% of all priests active between 1950 and 2002 had allegations of abuse, in their own words. The study is titled The Nature and Scope of Sexual Abuse of Minors by Catholic Priests and Deacons in the United States 1950 through 2002, on page 4. This institution has drastically failed at properly addressing and eradicating these issues. Through this speech, I will examine the atrocities of the Catholic Church in order to understand them. That is, I will prove how the Church defended clergy actions by not addressing the serious crime or illnesses of these abusers, as well as their refusal to acknowledge and heal innocent victims. I will do so by first analyzing the role of the Church, the treatment of abusers, how the Church has attempted to make reparations, and the local impact. So first, I will provide the role of the Church and how much responsibility it shares for these crimes. So to start, priest relationships with families in a specific parish can be incredibly unique. They can go anywhere from an informal kind of relationship to a very formal. And those informal ones, the priest can either take on a family member or, the more formal God complex. Regardless of their role or relationships with families, they are responsible for keeping children safe and unharmed at all times. So lines can be crossed. Besides sexual abuse, they can coerce children into sexual favors for spiritual rewards. As stated by Kaiser in her article, Clergy Sexual Abuse in U.S. Mainline Churches, 1996, this breach of trust is even more damaging when the abuser is a priest or minister, since for most believers, he or she is a representative of God, and the victim's spirituality and faith may be destroyed as a result of the betrayal. Characteristically, soul stealing is a term which has been used to describe this particular form of abuse. End quote. This was by Kaiser on page 32. These incidents are more of a struggle between vulnerability and power, not the actual sexual act. This was according to Kaiser. So cover-ups by the clergy become the most heinous type of crime because they know what is going on and refuse to acknowledge or even address what is happening. So all levels of the clergy are guilty at some point of either misconduct or being actual sexual abuse or harmful secrecy. So this is exemplified in canon law. These cases are part of the pontifical secret. According to Tapsel's 2015 article, The Strange Disconnect Between Pope Francis's Words and Actions About Sexual Abuse, the greatest level of confidentiality by all members of the clergy is implemented in relation to these cases. So this pontifical secret, according to child sexual abuse, still exists in canon law and is not renounced by Pope Francis. From that same Tapsel article, began, quote, Pope Francis ignored the role of canon law in the cover-up and said, I deeply regret that some bishops failed in their responsibility to protect children. There was not a word about the fact that in most cases such bishops were complying with the pontifical secret under canon law and its requirement to try and cure the priest before any attempt was made to dismiss him, from Tapsel. So this really, as I said, exemplifies the role of the clergy who aren't the abusers but still continue these acts and refuse to acknowledge these victims by keeping this in their law. So now that we have established the obvious role of the Church, we will move on to the treatment of abusers. So priests are sent to church and stated treatment centers after allegations are made, and the severity of allegations determines the process. Multiple allegations usually means that the accused clergy enters a treatment center, which again is church and stated, not by the government. And the less serious crimes denote the clergy being, or less serious, maybe more less quantity, denotes the clergy being reassigned, which can occur several times before the clergy, the member of the clergy is even treated. Sexual abuse of minors, from Kaiser. Sexual abuse of minors is a criminal offense. It is also a serious illness similar to alcoholism or drug addiction, which most experts agree is treatable and controllable but incurable. There is no guarantee against recidivism. Kaiser 32. So it basically means no matter what treatment they go through, there is no guarantee that this won't happen again. So instead of the priest resigning, they just continue to try and treat them, even though these cases keep coming again and again from the same member of the clergy. Understanding the complete lack of real treatment will aid in understanding how the church ignored allegations and refused the victim's rights as a human being. So next, we will analyze the current steps towards reparation as well as the importance of healing by all parties affected. So the church really proved that they are unable to handle these matters. Still, the church believes it has the ecclesiastical right to solve them and believes that they are the only authority to do so, which is wrong, which is again proved by their current actions towards reparations. So their plan they use now is that the victim would be fiscally compensated for therapy funds and further suffering, according to Formicola in her 2016 article, Recalibrating U.S. Church-State Relations, the Effects of Clerical Sexual Abuse. In Formicola's own words, the priest would return to his duties and the victim would be financially compensated. Canon law would prevail and the church would be spared the loss of its sacrosanct reputation. Page 313. So placing the blame becomes very important, as well as the responsibility that is shared. As stated by Gleason in her article from 2016, Responsibility and Redress, Theorizing Gender Justice in the Context of Catholic Clerical Child Sexual Abuse in Ireland and Australia. Begin quote. When responsibility for wrong is not placed or assumed by perpetrators and their enablers, victims of mass crimes may experience profound existential crises of normative abandonment by state and society. End quote. Gleason 780. The Catholic Church as a whole must take responsibility for their accountability in these crimes. So the government's legal system is the only way for true recompense. Canon law forbids child sexual abuse. However, the enforcement of that law is what makes it unsuccessful, from Formicola. Said canon law also does not allow rights for the victim, again rendering it ineffective, again from Formicola. The state's legal system causes true change and makes accountability relevant, as well as making it known to all people. The process of healing is unique to the individual and therapy becomes a must. The Catholic Church created this monster and now they must fix it. In Chopko's own words from his article in 2004, continuing the Lord's work in healing his people, a reply to Professors Lupu and Tuttle. Begin quote. But in addition to preventing reoccurrences of abuse, churches also must heal the wound in the faith community caused by abuse and inaction. To do so requires outreach and reconciliation and often monetary compensation. End quote. Chopko 1898. So moving on from the importance of reparations, we will now look at the local impact of the allegations within the diocese. The Diocese of Kansas City St. Joseph issued a series of 9 masses called Healing Our Parishes Through Empathy, as found in Montgomery's 2016 article titled Worshippers Seek Healing for Kansas City Diocese Torn Apart by Sexual Abuse. So these masses came after Bishop Finn of Kansas City resigned. He resigned because of his entanglement in a child sexual abuse case. He wasn't the actual abuser, but he did know about it and didn't do anything about it. The diocese does not claim this is the reason, but it does, become a specific type of coincidence. This is from Montgomery. Though the thoughts of these masses are mixed, a lot of people believe that these masses aren't genuine, also from Montgomery. So I had the opportunity to interview Dawn Blackman for her thoughts. She is a lifelong Catholic and is actually homeschooling her children in the faith to continue this tradition. She's also a local Catholic. So her thoughts was that Catholics do not support the bishop's actions, but must support him as an authority leader. She also asserted that these crimes are not unique to the Catholic Church. It is the shock of anyone harming a child that causes a tidal wave of emotion, which is a very important point. So finally, we will examine the positive outcomes of these events. Despite all the conflict over how the church is dealing with these issues, the truth is that people are fighting back and not just remaining silent in shock. On the more positive side of things, these events have now forced necessary policies and restructuring to take place. by Chopko. Begin quote. By and large, these lessons are seen in policies and programs that both respond to abuse and prevent it by educating parents and others about the abuse before it happens. The results are seen in lowered rates of abuse as churches incorporate these policies and programs into action mechanisms. End quote. Chopko 1898. Within the Kansas City Diocese, a program called Protecting God's Children is in place, which ensures, among other things, that 2 adults are in the room for any service provided to children, and these 2 adults cannot be married. It is still possible that child sexual abuse by members of the clergy continues to take place. At the same time, as long as the numbers decrease and the necessary institutions and people are held accountable, and all victims are allowed their rights as human beings, and which makes healing continue to take place. This all makes what has happened a victory. Thank you.